a man who has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. How about it from Michael Shure?
Hi, everyone.
I am well. I am getting this already. Donald the Maine Coon says, Mark, you are a killjoy. It is true. I was just talking about the fact, Michael, that Kamala Harris has done something in the few days that she's been the presumptive nominee, and that is she's dominated the news cycle. Prior to the pulling back of Biden in the presidential race, you had a news cycle dominated by his infirmity and by whatever Donald Trump was saying on the stump, and essentially firing various Molotov cocktails rhetorically at him. So
you also had an assassination attempt in a Republican convention. So I mean, it was a very, very full and quick news cycle.
Yeah, thank you. And I was just speaking before you got here about the fact that we just have the news cycle has an appetite that's just insane, warp speed kind of thing. So yes, the Republican National Convention seems so long ago, and it actually wasn't. So certainly the Biden speech, let's start with that. That wasn't that long ago. I was saying, felt like almost a campaign speech followed by I'm not running. In other words, went through a lot of his achievements during his administration, and then he announces that he's stepping back.
Yeah, I mean, it was more like a State of the Union. Here's where we are. Here's what we've done. Here's what's still left. And but he didn't. If you look back at Johnson in '68. Johnson broke news. We knew that Biden wasn't going to run. So it wasn't as if there was this earth-shattering moment where, oh, my God, the president has said he's not going to stand for election. Whereas with Johnson, it was presumed that he was going to be on the ticket. And he said, not only am I not going to run, seek the presidency, if nominated, I will not serve. I will not stand. So I think that there's a little bit of difference. Also, Joe Biden's, coming off of COVID. He's an older man. And so the force that you might expect with someone else doing that, but nobody does it. And I don't think you can underplay both how badly he didn't want to do this, and that makes the fact that he did it even more impressive to me.
Yeah. I mean, all the way up until the 11th hour.
Yeah, but I want to take a Mark Thompson victory lap. I don't take them very often, but for months now, or a month-ish, I've been saying that the Kamala Harris, when people were saying, oh, we don't want Kamala, the Kamala Harris you're going to get is going to be different, because the enthusiasm will be there, because there will then be energy behind the Democratic ticket, whoever it is. So whoever that was would not have been their old polls. And I think we're seeing that come to fruition here. And
I agree. I absolutely agree. She's surprisingly good so far.
Yeah, I mean, so far, and she's going to have some bad news cycles, right? But I mean, what happened in the past several days could not have gone better. That doesn't mean, and it absolutely will not stay this good. But this, if you're going to say that the torch pass and the opening of the campaign could not have gone better.
I'm going to address this now just because it annoys me. Randy, the continual rants about the Electoral College get old. Yeah, it's an antiquated system, but constitutionally based. So let's figure out how to win with that system. It's not going to change. Hey, Randy, you know what gets old? Hearing from you about how the Electoral College ranting gets old. That's what gets old. It is not just an antiquated system. It's a racist system. Go read about the Electoral College and its origins. It comes out of the slave state. No, not let's figure out how to win within that system. No, let's figure out how to get rid of that system. And there are ways. Google that too. Sorry to be annoyed, but I'm sick of you jumping on me every time I jump on the Electoral College. And you're lucky I don't yellow card you. Now.
But in Randy's defense, because he came without a lawyer today, the time to do this is next March, right? Next summer. Not right now, right? I mean, because this is the playing field for now, right? And the knife to the gunfight thing, whatever you want to say, the Electoral College needs to be won now, whatever its roots. And there are some good roots to it, and there are certainly some bad roots to it.
No,
and
there are no good roots to it.
Well, there are.
No,
I mean, we can have a debate about that. You and I have, actually. I think it's got to go. I think the Electoral College has got to go. But I don't think you talk about that in July, 3 months, 4 months before an
I
election.
wasn't actually talking about it going, and I'd be happy to have the debate another time, which I think you appropriately suggest should be held at another time. What I was saying is that the Electoral College is the game you are playing. I was actually saying what Randy was saying, which is
I wasn't here. I didn't hear you say.
I know, no, that's why I'm explaining it. I'm simply saying that my reference was it was a side reference saying, don't get too excited about Kamala Harris dominating the news cycle as she is, because were this just the popular vote, she might really have a shot, and Democrats probably would carry it. I mean, again, if you had to handicap it right now, real shot. But it's not the popular vote. It's the Electoral College, and it's an awful system, but it's the system we work in. That was literally the limit of what I was saying about the Electoral College. I didn't go into a big thing about how it has to. So, but every time I mention it, Randy jumps on me for mentioning it, and I appreciate that you defend him, and I also appreciate this, which is an aloha from Kauai, which chills me out. So thank you for the super
Big
chat.
shout
But
out.
you're right, Michael. I'd love to have that conversation, and we should do it
it's
another
not a debate.
time.
We're on the same side of it. The only difference we have is that part of its origins were about the agrarian economy, and we don't live in an agrarian economy anymore. So it does, that has been rendered obsolete. I think it would be a dull debate because we're on the same side.
So let's talk about what's happening on the Republican side of things, and then we'll get to the running mate, and we'll get and those choices. On the Republican side, I was saying, I think you weren't here, Michael, so you might have missed this, and I don't know that you agree with me, but I felt the choice of J.D. Vance was Trump really feeling it. He felt like, I got this. Now I'm going to get this young guy on board. He was being pushed by Peter Thiel. J.D. Vance, I think, has his whole life, professional life, really in the hands of Peter Thiel, who's delivered him a lot.
And David Sachs, Silicon Valley group out there.
Very good. At Sachs, and then his kids. I mean, Little Don Jr. and Eric, I think, were pushing as well. So now give me the pros and cons of a J.D. Vance.
Well, I think that the one piece that is just missing so far from the conversation here is that J.D. Vance, there's this feeling in MAGA world, and MAGA world is really Trump, his immediate acolytes, and his kids, that when Trump is off the stage, whether he's a president again or he's not, there's no one to carry that torch. There's no one to keep MAGA going. Then it would revert back to sort of your standard fare Republicans. But in J.D. Vance, they saw somebody who had the potential to make MAGA last longer. And so I think that was a very big part of it. And that's what probably swayed Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not drawn to big personalities or even biographies that outshine his in some ways. It's why I thought Doug Burgum was going to be his nominee, the governor of North Dakota. He's a fall-in line guy. He's a MAGA guy. It's what Mike Pence was as vice president, and all the way. I mean, he was also a constitutionalist and someone who agreed with the law, for which people are grateful. But I think Vance was too risky for this play. But I do, in the end, stick to my guns that this race will be about Donald Trump and about Kamala Harris, and not J.D. Vance. I think the distraction that Vance will bring is going to be occasional, and I just don't think debilitating. He's not Sarah Palin-like in being completely distracting from the nominee.
So as this maybe less than important emphasis is placed upon number 2 on the ticket, you turn to Kamala Harris, and she has some choices as well. She'll pick someone you'd think who would enhance or balance the ticket in some way, right? Politically.
Yeah, I think so. If people, Kamala Harris, people forget, has been elected to the vice presidency, elected to the U.S. Senate, elected to the attorney general's office in the biggest state population-wise in the country. So she's been out there before the voters before, and she has run offices both as the vice president, which doesn't really have a lot of clout, but certainly as the attorney general in California. So I think executive experience, she probably had not as much as a governor, but more so than your run-of-the-mill senator would have. And the vice presidency is proximate to the presidency. And Doug Emhoff, her husband, has become very close with President Biden. That friendship has made it so that that Kamala Harris has been more involved really in this calendar year with the presidency than she had been before, and than many vice presidents get to be. And so that's also an advantage that she has. She probably will want a governor. I think that what she wants is no risk. And she doesn't want to have this J.D. Vance moment that the Republicans are having right now. And so I think people who have stood for election more than once, perhaps, people that are popular in their states, and people who balance out the ticket in a way that they don't make any mistakes, right? Or there's nothing in their past. I think I think a vice president can't help you, but it can only harm you.
It's also worth noting that the vetting process for vice president and president nominations is withering. It makes the vetting process for governor and for some other legislative positions look like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, right, Michael Shure?
Yeah, that's true. It is. I think that's a great point, Mark. I don't know that it's permanently withered, but I do think that it has to be taken seriously, because what a vice presidential nominee can do is hurt you. Like I just said, I don't know how much they can help you. I don't know of any of the names being bandied about, who helps. Does Gretchen Whitmer help you? Yeah, she's won in a very pro-union state, and she's popular there. Is it worth the risk of having the first ticket in American history with two women on it? Maybe, but I think people are more careful than that, for better or worse. Tim Walz, also in the governor of Minnesota, also in a pro-union state, been reelected, but was in Congress, is very popular, is very off the cuff, is very in your face. Do you want that kind of personality? Maybe that shows some toughness on your ticket that Trump people will be wielding. And maybe you want somebody who can hit back at Donald Trump, but maybe you want to go a little safer and get a Southern governor like Roy Cooper or Andy Beshear. There are reasons to recommend all these people. Mark Kelly, the senator, Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary. They all come with some risks. I just think that you can't be too careful. A lot of people think Tim Kaine was a terrible pick for Hillary Clinton. People who overthink this thing. Hillary Clinton didn't lose because Tim Kaine was her running mate, right? And so I just don't think it matters as much as people say, but it matters because it's interesting.
So the way you frame it is such an interesting and important thing to consider, because it's as though on one level it doesn't matter, on another level it could be critically important if there is something revealed, like a Sergeant Shriver kind of thing, like a Eagleton kind of thing from ancient history,
Right, and if we had found out, look, if John Edwards' story was known before or during that campaign, it would have been devastating to Kerry, who ultimately lost anyway, but it would have been news cycles throughout that campaign. Edwards would have had to drop, a new candidate would have come on, it would have distracted from the race. Again, Kerry lost anyway, but it's still, those are the things you want to avoid.
I thought I saw a question for you before I got into my stuff, but now I don't know. If you find it, Albert or Kim, you can put it up there as at one of those Ask Michael Shure type things. But let me ask Michael Shure about the degree to which the campaign proceeds in this way. I always feel as though you want to make this, particularly with this particular configuration of a candidate in Donald Trump, you want to make this about him. You somehow want to make this campaign about Trump, and you want to put him on the defensive. I understand that there's a lot of talk about you have to offer the American people something and you have to offer them a future. I think that's all true. But I think from the standpoint of news cycle and news coverage and messaging and swinging people over, it's reminding people of certain things about Trump and making him defend it, as opposed to trying to defend the incoming stuff from Trump land. Do you agree with that assessment?
I do. I think that you got to be careful not to do it too much. People want to hear what you're about. They want to hear a vision. They want to hear an intangible. With Reagan, it was Morning in America. With Clinton, it was a town called Hope. Barack, it was Yes, We Can, that sort of thing. I do think that there has to be a positive message. And I think that was something that really debilitated President Biden. I think President Biden was really focused on Trump and how can we elect this guy? Democracy's on the line. Democracy on the line is a great, it's a great campaign message. but it's intangible. We don't know what that means precisely, but we do know what it means to build a bridge in our backyard. We do know what it means to give X number of jobs and to see inflation come down. We do know what it means to see, home prices come down and crime go down. So you have to talk about what you will accomplish, want to accomplish, and what you have accomplished. And I think for Harris, there will come a time, maybe, after the summer, where she tries to separate herself a little bit from the Biden administration, but Democrats are pleased with what they got from him. But I think she has to set her own course as her own woman in politics, and will do that in a way that won't be drastic, but certainly, talk about those things, all the while talking about Trump. What's great about Trump is he brings a lot of attention to himself already. You don't have to do all that work. There are very few people who want to vote in the next election who don't know who Donald Trump is. So many of them don't know who Kamala Harris is, and her running mate will be. And I think that's an important part of what they need to do.
Michael, did you hear rumors of Trumpster dumping J.D. Vance for Haley? Is the question from Julie.
I've heard I've heard rumors of J.D. Vance leaving the ticket. I don't know that it would be Haley. As far as I know, Haley, I don't think would want the job. But a lot of these people change their colors very quickly. I don't see the help to the Republican ticket by dropping Vance. There's something in that says to me, well, now all of a sudden I'm afraid of Kamala Harris. And Donald Trump is not someone who likes to look weak. And I think that there would be a division. One thing about Milwaukee is the Republicans, I felt, were very unified there. And I don't think they want to mess with their unity right now. It's a lot to dump a vice presidential candidate, but if they do it, they've got to do it quickly.
And I don't know how you do it. Like, on what grounds do you do it? You know what I mean? It would be a weird. But
it will be. I mean, that's another good point, Mark. Just because I think that you've got to have more of a reason than, oh wait, people aren't loving him. They could find anything. They could point to the fact that he said, childless cat ladies or whatever. But I don't know. I don't see it happening. If it would happen, my only take is that it should happen pretty soon.
There was a question about the RNC. Put it back up there, please. Underdog asks, hey, Michael, what do you think of Teamster leader Sean O'Brien's keynote speech at the RNC convention in Milwaukee?
Yeah, I think it was the most, without question, I'll say it's in the top 3 most important and interesting speeches I've ever seen at a convention. And I think that it was progressive at a Republican convention. It was brave because he was in the room with a lot of people who fought to keep him off that stage and left when he went on the stage and left as he was speaking because he excoriated the corporate boardrooms. He said, this is we need to hold people in power accountable, and this country was built on workers. And he didn't endorse Donald Trump. He said he's a tough son of a bitch for what happened in Pennsylvania, but he didn't endorse him. And I think, I just think it was an incredibly progressive speech at, of all places, a Republican convention. It'll be interesting to see. I think Sean Fain, the head of the UAW, is going to be speaking in Chicago to the Democrats. It'll be interesting to see if they invite O'Brien as well.
Yeah, it's so odd because Biden and the Democrats have been so staunchly behind unions and union work, and it's a remarkable thing to see him at that convention. But as you say, he didn't endorse the agenda of the GOP.
He didn't. He actually criticized it, and he didn't endear himself to a lot of people in that room. I think it was an important and interesting speech, and I think it was a wake-up call to some people there, but some people really did. I mean, I saw it. They just left. They didn't want, and I spoke to people before and after the speech who said they fought that not happen there. I mean, this is not the party of unions and labor unions, and the problem that they have is that a lot of those union voters have stopped being a monolith, and they've left and gone to Donald Trump because of the cult of Trump, because of MAGA, because of there's a place for a middle-aged white union member in MAGA that was appealing.
This on the debate. The Trump campaign confirming it is retreating from Kamala Harris debate for now. The campaign communications director blaming the continued political chaos surrounding crooked Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. The moment was taken by Kamala Harris to say, what happened to any time, any place?
Yeah.
So the idea somehow they're blaming it on, they do it with all the crooked Joe Biden and Barack Hussein Obama, and they wrap it in all of that. But he's stepping back from that commitment to debate. Now, but I'll let you speak in a second, of course, but I just wanted to throw one other thing in, Michael, because I say something that I think is not that popular, and that is I don't see Kamala Harris wiping the floor with Donald Trump. I mean, on a debate stage, she's going to own him. She's going to crush him. I don't necessarily see that. I see the debate stage as a place where he's fairly comfortable. I understand it bullies his way through and he makes stuff up, but it's up to his opponent to flag those things that he makes up and also to counter the bullying, which she can probably do strategically. But I think you can play it to a draw or maybe to a slight win. I don't see it as a wiping the stage with anybody kind of situation.
Yeah, I don't know what defines wiping the stage unless one of the people makes a huge mistake. And, Gerald Ford debated Jimmy Carter, and it was the first set of debates since the Kennedy-Nixon debates in 1976. And Ford said something that was totally wrong and made him seem out of touch. And it was a turning point in that campaign. I don't see that mattering as much anymore because Donald Trump could say something that is wrong. Ford said that there is no Soviet presence or domination in Poland, or in Eastern Europe, which was patently false. And it was a mistake by Ford. Trump would say it and not care if it's a mistake or care if it's flawed and not true. And no one would come after him the way they did with Ford. But what Kamala Harris is suited to do that President Biden is not, is that she can call out those lies in real time. She is familiar enough, sharp enough, and on top of those, the facts that Donald Trump plays with enough to make it seem like, I don't know about wiping the floor. I don't know who the last person to wipe a floor in a debate was, but I do think that she would do quite well against him in a debate in pointing out what wasn't true. And will that matter? I don't know. But I think his demeanor against Harris won't be as embraced if it's similar to how he debated Hillary Clinton because of the feelings toward Clinton at that time by many people.
Let me help you with the last time a guy was wiping the stage with somebody else in a debate.
June. It was June.
Yeah, I was going to say it was the last one.
Yeah, right.
Biden got owned. It was if it had been a fight, they would have stopped it.
But Biden didn't.
He's self-owned.
Trump didn't wipe the floor with Biden. Biden scored an own goal, and Biden, undid himself. So I think there is a distinction there.
Yes, you're right.
And we'd never seen anything like that either. And that changed possibly the course of American history. But I'm just talking about in a debate where what's being debated matters.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. So as we move on from here, the timetable for selection of the number 2 on the ticket, do you think she'll wait until the convention?
No, I think she'll do it before. The convention starts on the 19th of August. I would imagine the first week of August is when we'll hear who her running mate is.
Well, I'm always grateful for our time together. I thank you I know you've been running back and forth. You were at the convention, and I'm still worried about even Harris being able to be on state's ballot, says Paul. Michael Steele said it could be a legal issue per state.
Yeah, I think that's probably being overplayed, but it needs to be paid attention to. And it seems like they're going to work that out. I know they'll work it out. How they work it out, I don't know yet. But
They're also, I would say, I would ask you whether this is indeed the case, but I think it is, that those states that she wouldn't be allowed on or there'd be contesting of her appearance on the ballot are probably states that she's not going to win anyway.
That doesn't matter. You want to give every one of your voters the chance to vote. I mean, a state like Ohio, for example, it's a population center. It has three big cities, Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland. And then their B cities are also big when you look at Canton and Akron and Toledo.
Well, is that the state that she's not going to be allowed on?
That's one of the states.
I see. Okay.
You want as many votes as you can. You want to be able to say you have a mandate, or at the end of the night, you want to be able to say we won the popular vote. It's important for people to be part of the process. So they'll figure out how to. I have every confidence that they'll be on the ballot wherever they need to be on the ballot.
Michael, so insightful per usual, says Julie. How about that, Michael? Very, very nice. A lot of love for Michael Shure.
I'll take it.
Wow. There's also Michael Shure. Thank you. Okay. Well, I could go with a few minutes of loving on Michael Shure.
I'm going to pour a drink if that's okay.
Yeah, that really is quite special. Thank you, Michael Shure. All right. So we'll talk next week, next Friday.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah. All right.
Happy Olympics. Michael Shure, everybody. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.